Welcome to the Angelo Carlos podcast. We're here on episode 3. We've got a new guest on board. I want to welcome you to the show, Elaine. Thank you so much for taking time to jump on board. Your story about you becoming MD, the kind of path you're pursuing right now, it's extremely knowledgeable, and it's extremely motivational to the younger generation. And we are very happy to have you on board. So welcome to the show, Elaine.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Angelo. It's great to be here.
Of course. Very excited to have you. So, Elaine, first things first, whenever we have a new guest on the show, we usually like to introduce you through a rap. So, with that being said, you cool if I spit a little rap for you, some fire words for you, buddy?
Please, I'd love to hear it.
All right. He's a true OG who's going through residency. He's an MD that will have his own clinic. He's going to get the bag, you can pin it. His love for powerlifting and sports has got him into sports med. He's going to make sure you sleep well in bed. Welcome to the Angelo Carlos podcast, Elaine.
Whoa, bars. Okay.
Bars, right?
Yeah, thank you for that rap.
Of course, man. I appreciate you. I know you're a huge hip-hop head, man. We've had like a lot of conversations about J. Cole, about Drizzy, about Kendrick, a lot of rap conversations. So I'm happy to kind of introduce you to this little bars, some bars, and through the session, man. So thank you for coming on board, man. How are you there, Elaine?
Yep. I think it froze for like a couple seconds.
Okay, shoot. It's okay. Usually I edit it out, so we'll figure it out. Let's say 3, 2, 1, start, and then I'll just keep talking. So 3, 2, 1, start. Elaine, so from my understanding, currently you are in residency right now in Minnesota, correct?
Yep, that's right. I'm doing family medicine residency here in Minnesota, and I'm an intern.
Oh, congrats. Yeah, so for our viewers, Elaine is actually doing residency in Minnesota. He graduated with his MD about, I believe, last year, correct? So we got the ball rolling there. And Elaine, so a lot of our viewers, right, they're kind of like early in their careers, they're in undergrad, or they're in the same spot as you, whether they're a few steps ahead or just a few steps below, or in the same kind of wavelength where you are. So this episode is really dedicated to those looking to try and to get into med school or coming to become a doctor. For those of you who don't know, Elaine kind of had passions of becoming a doctor. He stuck with the medical route, really went through with it, worked super hard in college, and now is on his way to becoming going through residency. So Elaine, can we start with how and why you want to become a doctor? A lot of parents, their dream for their kids is for them to go to medical school, become a doctor, make a lot of money, and kind of be a benefit to society, take care of those who need their help. So where did this spark for medical school kind of start? Did it start during your time in college, or when you were a kid, or kind of where was it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I always really enjoyed the sciences, like literature and things like that. Never quite interested me as much. I was always a big science guy. And I knew I wanted to go into a field that was more functional science, where I could see results like at real time. So that kind of helped weed out a scientist versus maybe like some sort of clinician. I've also, when I was younger, I had a lot of family who were sick, so I would be in that setting very often. And I'd be in and out to clinics as well as a hospital. So kind of a personal touch from my life. Going into college, I knew I wanted to go to medical school and become a doctor. So I went to UC Merced, and I majored in biology. And I got involved on campus. So I worked as a research assistant. I also volunteered at the nearby hospital. And I think volunteering at the hospital helped really reinforce my interest in medicine. It's really hard. I find it very difficult to want to go into a field where you're not quite familiar with it. So if for those of you who are curious and going into medicine, definitely if there are any shadowing or any volunteering opportunities, I highly recommend those because you can see firsthand what it's like. So I when I volunteered in the emergency department, and I got to talk to a whole bunch of people, nurses, doctors, patients. It was really great getting to know the patients, hearing about their story, how they came in, because everyone has their own story, and it's really, really, it's really great when you're able to connect with someone. That's one of my loves for medicine. So after, yep.
Can we go into your college experience? Because this is kind of crucial right now. A lot of our viewers are in undergrad or they're actually in medical school. With regards to college, talk about your major. What classes did you take? And then another thing you did mention were your volunteer opportunities. How did you get those opportunities? And then can you kind of talk about more what you learned from them?
Yeah, I can definitely go into that. So I majored in biology, specifically human biology, also minored in psychology as well. So really the big subjects are chemistry, biology, organic chemistry, physiology, and some physics as well as calculus. So a lot of foundational courses that would help you along your medical career. And then in regards to the volunteering aspect of it, so I did two things: research as well as volunteering at the hospital. So with the hospital, it was more so getting involved in certain organizations that are medically focused. Being involved with those organizations help sort of make those opportunities available to me for the volunteering at the hospital. For the research, it's really networking, and networking is a really big aspect of going into medicine. With any sort of job field, it's really great to know people who are within that field, so they can help you along the way because everyone needs some help along the way.
That's great. That's great. For the classes you took, do most med schools have a list of required classes in order to apply? And then did you happen to use any of your volunteer work, people that you've worked with the volunteering, did you end up using them as references for medical school?
So with the courses, there are a core list of classes that are expected of applicants to take in the undergrad route prior to applying to medical school. I don't remember the entire list, but as I said, it's physics, chemistry, biology, organic chemistry, physiology, biochemistry. I may be missing some, but I think those are really sort of the main core from what I recall when I was applying. In terms of references wise, I did I was able to work alongside my supervisors, whether it was in the hospital or in the research lab, build rapport with my supervisor, and then being able to ask for a letter to help me apply for medical school.
And with regards to that kind of process, you mentioned your major was human biology. Is it necessary for a candidate who wants to enter medical school to be a biology major, or can they have different majors and just take those certain classes that each school requires?
Yeah, that's a good question. So biology isn't the only major that's required to apply to medical school. To my understanding, you can be any major you like as long as you take the certain courses that these medical schools are expecting applicants to take prior to going to medical school. So sort of the core courses that I talked about earlier.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. So now that we're kind of transitioning to got our degree, we have got references. We did a lot of great internship or volunteering experiences at the hospitals. Can we talk about the application process to medical schools? Do you happen to remember how many schools you applied to, and then what the application process was like, and then what the MCAT was also like?
Yeah. So I could start talking about the MCAT. The MCAT is a very, very long and rigorous exam. From what I recall, it was about 8 hours or so, and it was just a combination of those basic courses that I talked about, sort of the backbone courses prior to apply at medical school. So it's really important to do well and score well on the MCAT. In terms of applying, I had only applied to a handful of medical schools prior, and then the one that I ended up going to was a school in the Caribbean called Ross University.
Ross, great school. And with regards to your application to Ross, right? What was that like once you applied? Were there interviews to meet with the school itself? How was that?
Yeah, so applying to medical school it's just like applying to college. So there's a personal statement, letters of reference, and then if your application is something that those schools like, they'll call you for an interview, and it's just a classic college interview sort of situation.
That's awesome. So for those of you who are curious, during undergrad, Elaine actually told me that he interviewed at Harvard, right? And for those of you who are curious, some like a lot of schools in undergrad, especially if like they're kind of like the more bigger, well-known private universities, they'll make you go through an interview process where you meet with like an admissions director or just certain alumni with that. So was that kind of similar to your experience right there? I know, of course, more medicine like compared to undergrad, right? Do you happen to remember how that experience was like for you?
Yeah, so I did apply to Harvard when I was applying to undergraduate schools. I did get an interview, and the interview was of an alumni that was in the Bay Area where I was from, and it was a really great opportunity, a really great experience to talk with that individual. So having that, I was very grateful for the opportunity to interview.
Awesome. Yeah, no, great. Thanks, Elaine. Appreciate it. So Elaine kind of had that little interview experience, undergrad experience, and then he kind of interviewed again when he went to medical school. So let's kind of jump into your medical school journey. Your first year in medical school, what was that like? Was it culture shock? Was it different from the undergrad experience? How much were you studying, and what were classes like?
Yeah, so I had a unique experience studying abroad in the Caribbean. It was definitely an adjustment, living on the island as well as studying medicine there. I'm not entirely sure how I could compare the rigors of the first 2 years to medicine compared to my undergrad, but there was, the classes are, they're rigorous in the sense where there's a lot of volume. So the way it can be described where you're studying medicine is like drinking water from a fire hydrant. So it's coming fast, and there's a lot of information coming at you. So that was an adjustment. Studying for it, I wake up, go to the lecture, and then essentially study pretty late in the library and kind of rinse and repeat. The only days that I would really keep track of are when my next exam was, because I'm so honed in to the lectures and reviewing them and studying.
So it seems like it's a lot of work, especially in medical school, drinking from a fire hydrant. For those who are kind of curious, right? Um, Usually when you get a new job, right? That's like the term they use, right? When you get a new job, you just have so much information to process and learn, so they have the term drinking from the fire hydrant. For medical school, it's probably very similar, maybe on a much different level where you're taking a lot of classes. It's a big shift from undergrad, where undergrad, it's kind of like you're having a good time, hanging with your friends a lot. But in med school, you're given so much information. Can you give us a sense of the classes you were taking during medical school, maybe throughout those 4 years? Did you have labs as well on top of that?
Yeah, so in my first year, first semester, we had anatomy, and I was very fortunate enough where my school still had a cadaver lab. So we had
Oh, nice.
individuals who, um, you know, they donated their body to science, and I'm very, very grateful for them because I and the rest of my classmates had an opportunity to really learn from their bodies. It's learning from a cadaver, learning anatomy from cadaver is definitely an experience that I'm thankful for.
That's interesting. Yeah. So it looks like you have a cadaver lab, as well as you we're working on a lot of labs at your time in medical school. With regards to medical school itself, on average, how many hours were you studying every week?
So I can definitely talk from my experience. Everyone has their own method. So some
Mhm.
people studied for many hours, some people studied um, for a shorter amount of time. So my schedule would be, I would wake up at 7 and then go to lectures until about 4 or so, and then I would study until late in the evening, sometimes up to 11 at night. Just taking some breaks here and there, and then essentially just have a full day of reviewing the lectures of the day. And this would go on essentially all the days leading up into the test.
That's a lot of studying. It seems like you have to put a lot of work in order to kind of excel and do well during medical school. So earlier, Elaine and I were chatting. He mentioned one of the craziest experiences he had in medical school was that there was a hurricane, correct? And you had to study on a cruise ship. Can you tell us a little bit about that story and what that was like? Was it scary? Were you fearing for your life? And then what was like adapting, trying to still go to classes while being on a cruise ship?
Yeah, so there was a really uh, big hurricane that came to that affected the island that I was on.
You
Uh,
remember what hurricane that was?
it was it was Hurricane Maria.
Hurricane Maria. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it was Category 5. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it was a pretty interesting experience. It essentially devastated the entire island. We were there for a few days until help came to come pick us up. So once we were off the island, we had some time to recuperate. And school gave their students the option to continue their education on essentially it was closer to a boat than a cruise ship.
A cruise ship.
Um, yeah, yeah, that was really an experience because a lot of medical education now is electronic based, so they're like recorded
Mm-hmm.
lectures as well as online PowerPoints and things like that. As you can imagine, with being at sea, the situation with the Wi-Fi is really interesting because we would only have it if we were docked. Sometimes we'd have to undock um, to go into the sea a bit because just the schedules of the boat being at the dock, they can't be there for a certain amount of time. So making sure to download all your lectures, the
Mm-hmm.
PowerPoints and the videos before going out and not having the Wi-Fi essentially. So that was really an experience when I was studying abroad.
I bet. That's definitely an experience. Like one, you're afraid for your life, right? Hurricane Category 5 is no joke. Also, too, you have to adapt and adjust to the situation you're in, right? It's no more library, no more typical routine you have as you kind of go into it. A lot of times when you're in medical school, in medical school, you kind of have this routine, study, right? Go meet with your professors, learn, work with classmates, projects, groups, labs, whatever it may be. And everything gets kind of shifted where you have to adapt to the hurricane. You have to adapt to being on a new boat rather than on land, which is insane. And I'll respect you for going through that. I want to go into kind of experience going overseas or going kind of a medical school in the Caribbean, right? Most people are aware that there are medical schools in the U.S., right, kind of on the mainland, going to the Caribbean. What advice would you have for someone who is considering going to medical school in the Caribbean? Do you recommend it? Do you feel that there's a lot of tremendous growth because you are kind of on a bit farther from your family if you're coming from the United States?
Yeah, I think going to medical school in the Caribbean is a viable option for certain people. I overall, I think I am thankful for the opportunity to go and being able to finish school and being able to apply to residency and then successfully get a residency position. So there are many ways to become a doctor. You can study in the U.S. or outside. It just takes a lot of hard work, grit, have a really good support system, and anyone who is interested, I would recommend them looking into it if they feel like it really fits within their plan.
No, I appreciate that, Elaine. And for those of you who don't know, Elaine has a beautiful story of perseverance. He talks a lot about residency and how it being kind of like a key factor once you graduate medical school. So from my understanding, Elaine, that year after medical school, you applied and weren't able to get a residency, correct? And then you kind of did your best to make the most out of a certain situation that wasn't advantageous for you. From my understanding, you told me that you worked as a professor at the university, correct? Can you talk about that and talk about what you learned during that time?
Yeah, so my first time around applying the match, it was unsuccessful. It was a hard hit, but it gave me an opportunity to re-examine how I approached the process. I did a lot of internalizing of things that I needed to do to become a better applicant. I talked to those essentially in a position where I wanted to be and to get their thoughts on the matter. So I did take some time to work as a teaching assistant over at the university where I graduated. I think that was really great because it gave me an opportunity to give back to my school and then help those in the position where I was studying on the island and then transitioning back to the U.S. in preparation for residency.
That's awesome. So for those of you who are curious, residency is one of the most important things you do after graduating medical school, even like pharmacy school, if you want to kind of become a practicing physician, right? For those who are in medical school. So the fact that Elaine didn't get the first round is a story of beautiful kind of perseverance. He decided that, hey, I may not have gotten this first round, but I'm going to learn everything I can and reflect what I actually want to do with my life. He ended up working at the university, at the medical school in the Caribbean, and then he was able to reapply again to where he is now and get a role as a resident. So Elaine, talk about that process. After not getting that, you never gave up. You kept pushing. So did you reapply again? And then talk about the residence that you did get into this second round come around.
Yeah, so I reached out to those who were successful obtaining a residency, sort of compiled a um, a ton of information about what those individuals have done that made them successful, and I sort of re-examined things that I did where I may have done, and maybe it played a role in me not attaining one. So, sort of, I guess the best way I can describe is I minimize and maximize uh, my potential by re-examining my application, talking to those who are in a successful position, and then incorporating that onto my application within the next year.
Got it. So a lot of feedback, reintegrating what you learned and kind of going from there. I liken it to someone I follow. For those of you curious, I'm big finance, kind of buff for nerds. So Ray Dalio is a so-called Masters of the Universe, right? Where people would kind of dub him that, but he's one of the founders of Bridgewater Capital, which is the largest one, if not the largest hedge fund in the world. And Elaine, you kind of remind me of this quote: "Pain plus reflection equals growth." So for you, that pain of not getting into that first residency, reflecting on everything that happened, allowed you to grow as a professional because you worked as TA at the university, and then you grew as your growth as a medical doctor by actually reapplying, never giving up, and going to your residency where you are now. So a lot of props, a lot of kudos for you, my friend. I think that's very important for our viewers to know that life isn't going to always go up, 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 and all be highlights. It's going to go up and down, up and down, up and down. You'll eventually get to where you want to be if you never give up. And Elaine is a great example of someone never giving up, someone practicing perseverance and really fighting for what he truly believes in. So thank you, Elaine. So Elaine, I want to transition into your day-to-day as a resident right now. What hospital are you in? What are you working on? And what's that like for you?
Yeah, so I matched into Hennepin, the Hennepin healthcare system. I work in Minneapolis at Hennepin County Medical Center. Currently working inpatient, which basically just means I work in the hospital, and this is my hospital rotation. So in terms of my day-to-day, wake up at 6, and then get to the hospital before 7 to essentially get sign-outs. And sign-outs are, it's a verbal handoff from the team on what has happened overnight or during the day with the patients. And then, so this is a very important process because in terms of transition of care, it's a really important aspect of continuity of care. So I would start get signed out at 7, and then go and see my patients in the morning. And then after I go see my patients, we do something called rounding, where essentially it's talk with the team about updates on the patient and how we can maybe adjust or modify the plan for their care. And this happens throughout the day and finishes around 5 or 7 in the evening, where the shift ends, and then you have the sign out again for the following team. So that's sort of the a very brief kind of play-by-play of what to expect in hospital medicine.
That's awesome. And then how long are you going to be in this residency? And then what careers usually are open to those who finish the residency in this field?
So yeah, family medicine is a 3-year program. Family medicine is meant to be the primary care specialty. So it's meant to serve as a big portion of the primary care physicians' in the country. There are a handful of fellowship programs, so additional training after the 3 years that are available to family. Just some off the top of my head are sports medicine, sleep medicine, as well as geriatrics. Informatics is a new up-and-coming specialty. I have a particular interest in sports medicine. I played sports in high school, and I enjoy going to the gym, particularly powerlifting. So it's having sort of that background helped me find my way to sports medicine.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it looks like you're kind of trying to transition into sports medicine after the residency. Elaine's currently year 1, so he has 2 years left, and then we'll be sure to check up on him on this journey as he finishes and goes to residency. So thank you, Elaine. I appreciate you walking us through your undergrad experience, your medical school experience, and where you currently are in residency. You're going to help a lot of people with what you taught us here today in the show. We really appreciate you. So we're actually going to jump into the fun part of the show. We call this the top 5 part of the show. For those of you curious, I'm a huge fan of Podcast P. As you know, I'm a basketball head. Podcast P is about Paul George, and he has a top 5 starting lineup for basketball players. For us, Elaine is a huge fan of rap, so we're going to do top 5 rappers. It's basically your starting 5 of rappers, Elaine. And since you are our guest on the Angelo Carlos podcast, you get the first pick. Who are you drafting with the first pick of the rap?
Okay, it's a good question. So, first one, I'm going to have to name Drake. I'm a big Drake fan.
Good one. So you taking Drizzy?
I'll take Drake at 1, and then
okay. So we usually kind of jump back and forth. So I'll go next for my for my pick, and my first pick. I'm gonna go with Mr. Tupac Shakur. Mr. Pac, I know he's a legend in the rap game, and you can't disrespect him like that. And we're gonna have the audience vote at the end in the comment section below who do you think has the best top 5. So I'm gonna go with Pac. Who you going with next, Elaine?
I'm gonna have to go with J. Cole.
J. Cole's a good one. Yeah. You've been on him for a while before, like Dreamville, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Jay's good.
A really great generation of rappers.
Yeah, Cole World. So I'm gonna have to go with a next great lyricist, aka rapper. I'm gonna go with Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick has been swimming pools day one. Man, he's been on so many like great soundtracks and certain movies. So gotta go with Kendrick. What about you? Like, who you going with your third pick?
Third pick here. Say, I feel like I'm choosing a lot of these Canadian artists. I would have to go with continue off with OVO with Party Next Door.
Oh, P&D, that's a good one. P&D had a lot of great songs. He had one with Zayn too. I really like that song back when he posted that one. That was a good one. Cool. Party Next Door. That's a real good one.
Yeah. I'm
gonna have to go with my third pick. Actually, I was top 0.1% of listeners when I had my Spotify recap for this rapper. He's kind of a newer rapper, but I just love his music. I'm gonna go with Polo G. So Polo G is my third pick. What about you, Lane? Who you go with number 4?
Okay. All right. Number 4. I think I'm gonna go with 50 Cent.
50. Oh, were you a G-Unit fan? Like with Tony Ayo and the boys?
Yeah. More.
That's crazy.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, 50 goes hard, man. He turned himself into unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a great example of like you use your platform to make music and then eventually use it to turn into business. Similar how Jay-Z did his, where he was a rapper and he became a millionaire, then billionaire, musical mogul, as well as several businesses now. So that's exciting. All right. So I believe it's my turn, right? For my pick, correct, Elaine?
Yeah. Yep. I
Yep.
think
So
you're up
okay.
next.
So with my pick, y'all put me on the spot with this one, but I'm gonna go. I've just been simping. I've been loving some simp music. So I'm gonna have to go with Rod Wave. I know it's kind of
Okay.
like I might get some hate, but I gotta go with Rod. Gotta go with Rod. So
Rod.
that's my pick. Yeah, yeah. So who you got?
Okay.
You got 50. You got J Cole. You got Drake. You got P and D. So you're in your fifth and final pick. Who you taking, Elaine? Who's taking? Who you taking?
I'll probably have to go with Nas as my last one.
Oh, Nas is a good one, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I like how you go with all like the hardcore, like straight up like goats of the industry. P&D got great music too, so a lot of great music there. So with
Yeah.
my fifth and final pick, I'm gonna go with someone who just had some fun music. I remember just hearing, and just always made me like just want to jump up and have a good time. I'm going with Kid Ink. He had some bangers
Kid
like
Ink. Okay. Classic.
classic. So like show
Yeah.
you can't go wrong. I think AO is Kid Ink, so just a lot of
Can't
laughs with Kid Ink.
can't go wrong.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that one's some bangers.
No, loving it.
But yeah, I appreciate you love it. All right, thank you, Lane. So comments below. Let us know
Yeah.
who had the top 5 rappers that you enjoyed the most. Very excited for to hear y'all what y'all have to say. And last and final question, Elaine. This should take no more than 30 seconds, but you've been so inspiring, and we really appreciate you so much for coming on the show. Your journey to become a medical doctor has been huge and very inspirational for a lot of people. Can you leave the audience one piece of information or one piece of advice you'd give them for those who are wanting to become a doctors, or what piece of advice would you give yourself?
Yeah. The the big piece of advice. It's not limited to becoming a doctor or anything in life. If there's something that you really want, don't let others tell you that you can't do it. If it's something that you really, really want, just continue to work hard and persevere and keep the dream alive.
That's beautiful. All those ups and downs, all those perseverance, and you're still here standing up tall. I'm very proud of you, my friend. You're inspiring a ton of people by sharing your journey. And just want to let you know we're super thankful for everything you've done. And thank you so much for sharing your time. I know you're a resident. I know you're a busy man. So another just so much thank you, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate it, of course. No, yeah, thanks for having me. I had a great time talking to you and catching up.
All right. Well, thank you, Lane. All right, Jello fam. Appreciate you guys watching the Andrew Carlos podcast, episode 4 with Dr. Elaine. Like, comment, subscribe, share this video. It helps us get the message out. It helps me create more content to help out y'all and make this world a better place. So truly appreciate everyone. And with that being said, peace.